All right, I think I'm set. Hello everyone, this is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, and welcome to the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast number 60. This is the one about Jeet Kune Do. What specifically have you added / do you add? I actually should have transposed those and put the do you add first. Anyhow, if you guys are logging in, you know the deal. Be kind enough to say where you're logging in from. Hit the like button. Feel free to continue to hit the like button as we do this thing and we get some algorithmic relevance from the good people at Facebook. All right, nothing too fancy in the origin story for today's broadcast, since last week we took a look at JKD Tenet number 3, right? Reject what is useless. So I thought today, why don't we just delve a little bit more into JKD Tenet number 4, add what is specifically your own. But what's funny is that as I did this, as I was thinking and preparing, I was reminded of something from, it's from Chris Kent and Tim Tackett's book, the Jeet Kune Do kickboxing book, and it's on page 10 where a lot of the good information is, and it says to know it, referring to Jeet Kune Do, you must study and observe it, not for weeks or for months, but every day for years. Even with knowledge and training, more is required. Maturity and a deep comprehension of combative principles are necessary. The animal is cunning, continually changing, and forever adapting. Right? So this year, I celebrate 36 years with Dan and Asano, and 45 years as somewhat of a JKD student, because I actually had almost a decade of like training on my own before I ventured out to California. So and in all that time, having seen the tenets of Jeet Kune Do, the sign, having read about it and written and spoken about it, sometimes ad nauseum, only now does it dawn on me that the verb is add, not blend, not mix, not synthesize. The verb is add what is useful. So here's my first question for you guys out there. Is this what may have led some people to think that Bruce Lee took his Wing Chun training and added some other Kung Fu techniques to it, in order to come up with hey Sifu Nick, in order to come up with Jeet Kune Do, right? Is this where, you know, there are people out there who get the idea that, you probably heard this one, Bruce Lee took the best techniques from all the styles and added them together to create Jeet Kune Do, right? Is this where or why some people, some JKD people, get the idea that they should add on to their JKD? So they should add the Krav Maga, they should add the Sistema, they should add the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, they should add the Filipino Kali, right? So when you guys hear this, I want you to go ahead and weigh in on that, okay? Here's partially my thinking. If Bruce Lee and Jesse Glover and Taki Kimura and James Lee and Dan Asano and everyone else who contributed to the development of this thing called Jeet Kune Do, if they have already done a lot of the groundwork for us, you like that? The groundwork, right? It's pretty cool, right? Then what's left for us to come along and add? Is there anything? Because again, on page 10 of the Jeet Kune Do, of the kickboxing book that I just showed you, it is stated that Dan and Asano greatly influenced the curriculum by adding Filipino Panantukan. But Kent and Tackett do go on to say that it added the ability for the students to drill realistically and combatively, right? So, is it actually adding, or is it refining what is already there, right? So I want you guys to go ahead and weighing on that also, right? So you know that I'm never here on the broadcast or even on the dialogues to talk that much about myself. But instead of just wandering generally around this topic of adding what is specifically your own, I wanted to deal with a few meaningful specifics. Let's call it that, right? So let's talk adding. So if I envy Bruce Lee's hand speed, and I work on my own through boxing and maybe even through Wing Chun or something, but then I do come across this thing called Filipino Kali, and they have a thing called double sticks, and I realized that the weaving patterns of the double stick, that it requires a different kind of dexterity, a different kind of coordination than what I get from boxing and Wing Chun. Can I now use the Filipino double stick to refine my hand speed and coordination in kind of a secret method of turbocharging my empty hands? Now, along the way, in my taking a look at Filipino martial arts, maybe I discovered that there's tons of different styles. Everybody's got their own approach. So do I now try to study as many as these different approaches as I can? Well, yeah, if I love doing that kind of thing and I have the time, right, like I can spend the time doing all that. But then, of course, I never consider it my Jeet Kune Do training. I'm just doing this in order to get something from it that I can then add back, there's that word again, add back into my JKD. So I may not get caught up in being certified in the systems that have become really popular, like back in the day, Lameko was very popular, right? Today probably Balintawak or something, right? And there are some people who they get into all of that stuff so that they can add that which is popular to what they're doing at their school, so that then their students hear about it and, oh, look, it's offered at my school or what have you, right? Do I fall into the trap of more is better by learning all the different count drills in the double stick or what have you? If, to me, the 6 count of inward backhand, right? Inward backhand is the most functional in my estimation. So now I look at ways of using that inward backhand as a prefix, maybe even as a root motion, or maybe even as a suffix. I'm looking at its application in empty hands and in different types of weaponry. Okay? So that's on the technique side. Now, Sifu Nick is here, so we'll talk a little bit of the business side, right? And we've touched on this topic before. In fact, Johnny Williams over at the Facebook group, Everything is Gung Fu, he made me think of this because he sent me a picture of the old Seattle Gung Fu Institute, like their demo team, in their full Chinese uniforms with the colored sashes. And Cedro Bruce himself is wearing his old frog button uniform with the red sash, like the master's sash and everything. So uniforms were a thing in Seattle at one point, but then we know ultimately that Bruce Lee moved away from it, right? So when I open my school, not me literally, a person, right? If a person opens his school, does he do things the way that Bruce Lee was doing it towards the end, or do I do it the way that Bruce Lee did when he was starting out, right? As in, make use of uniforms and maybe colored sashes or colored belts or something, right? I have a choice, and either way can be considered valid, right? Can it? If a guy says, well, in his early days, the founder of Jeet Kune Do did such and such, so I'm just doing what he did at that time period. Is that guy wrong? right? If another guy points out that at the time that in the early days Bruce Lee was not yet Jeet Kune Do, and so he chooses to avoid the use of uniforms or any kind of traditional trappings, right, in his approach to JKD, is that guy wrong, right? I think if both of them can keep their schools open and they can pay their bills and they can make a living, then whichever approach it is that they use, more power to them, right? Or to paraphrase Jeff Westfall, right, and those of you who have seen my episode with him, you'll know what we're talking about. Perhaps the answer can be somewhere in between, right, where you do come up with a way to acknowledge and reward your students' effort, right, with some kind of award, but perhaps not take the approach of this, because this is something that I heard when I ran my school and when I started looking seriously into professionalizing. This is what I heard. The public understands belts when it comes to martial art. If you teach the public, use belts because that's what the public understands. For me, and I stress that, this is just for me, I have a little issue with that because I don't recall Bruce Lee ever saying, I will give the public what the public expects, right? In fact, I don't know if you guys have this book, right? Bruce Lee and I, Bay Logan's book, terrible title, good book, right? You'll read that in his very first film, in The Big Boss, Bruce Lee did make a few concessions when it came to the fight scenes and what have you. But overall, he insisted on not going for the extended fight scenes, which were very much in vogue in the early 1970s Hong Kong Kung Fu films, like the Shaw Brothers stuff. So if you compare fight scenes, 1971, fight scenes in The Big Boss, with 1971 fight scenes in The Duel, which starred Shaw Brothers' number one guy at the time, a guy named Jimmy Wang Yu. Now only the people on here, you know, in a particular age group will know who the heck I'm talking about, right? But if you compare fight scenes in those two, you'll see that Bruce Lee's method of dispatching opponents, it was like hit you once or twice and you're done. Not the extended Jimmy Wang Yu type of fighting. And by the way, The Big Boss made probably twice as much money as The Duel did, all right? Just so you know, okay? So I don't know about you, but besides the initial impact of Kato in The Green Hornet, The Big Boss was literally, this was the thing, look, when I watched that movie, literally, I sat up in the theater, in the cinema, I sat up in my chair and I went, holy crap, this guy Bruce Lee fights real different. And the rest, as they say, is history. Because now, fast forward to 2019, and here I am on the internet talking about Bruce Lee and Jeet Kune Do with you guys, right? Okay, so I don't think that, and that is because Bruce Lee did not give the public what it is supposedly used to and it supposedly wanted. And I think that there's a lesson in there for all of us. Okay? All right. That's it for today, guys. Feel free to share, like, comment, ask questions if you want. Feel free to dislike and disagree also, right? And I'll review everything after posting. Sign up for notifications for when we go live on the Facebook and when we post the new videos on the YouTube channel. At ilovejeetkunዶ.com, volume 1 of the Quick Skill series is still available. Go to jkdrebel.com/store, make a purchase there in effort to support everything that we do here. And coming up on Friday, the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues will be with JJ Dallo out of Michigan, right? So that's this Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, usual time. And we'll see you back here next Wednesday for another issue of the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel. Right, here's the shirt. Today is a red day. All right, you guys take care. Enjoy yourselves. Have a good one.